Hi, this is Tim Winters today, and we're going to present Broadband Forum is presenting Deliver on the Promise of the Connected Home. We have several panelists here, and today we're going to talk about some of the events going on in the home networking space. I'm going to let each panelist introduce themselves today.
Hello, my name is Bahadir Damshik. I'm product manager in Nokia and doing the standardization for TR69 and USP.
My name is Jason Walls. I am the Director of Technical Marketing at QA Cafe. We're the makers of the CD router test platform for connected devices. And I'm also the co-director of the Broadband User Services work area at the forum, and that's the group that's building TR69 and USP and the data models.
Excellent. I'm Michael Shaw. I'm with Axeros. We're part of Axeros GmbH, based in Munich, Germany, longtime members of the Broadband Forum. Happy to be here.
Tim Spetz, work for Greenway Systems, senior standards architect. I also am the USP project lead.
So for the next part, we're going to let Jason talk a little bit about USP for those unfamiliar with the technology and how it works.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what USP is or haven't heard of it before, it's really the evolution of TR69 into a whole new set of devices, be that managed Wi-Fi or smart home devices or IoT. And that really came about from the need for service providers to be able to take control of the connected home. And to, with a number of things that TR69 could do but didn't do necessarily well enough when it comes to monitoring or mass telemetry or being appropriate for smaller devices. So we sort of ripped things open and built a new protocol that is still backwards compatible with the device to data model, so to make for an easy transition for service providers. But it also opens things up for a new ecosystem where multiple controllers can exist, and those can be that can enable the end user to have a better experience and be able to control things in their home, either on the go or within their own network. It also enables third-party applications to be able to be installed on devices and kind of build those relationships with providers who are looking to monetize the connected home, and also improve on the existing use cases of TR69 with your traditional ACS.
Awesome, thank you, Jason. That was a good high-level explanation of what USP is. So for the next couple of questions, we have some generic questions that we're going to let everybody answer, and then for the format, if you want to start queuing up questions, those in the audience asking us individual Q&A questions, we'll take the back half of the webinar to try to answer as many of those as we can get through. So the first question I want to ask everybody, and I'll start with you, Tim, is why is the evolution of TR69 important?
I like to call it revolution. I don't think evolution as far as TR69 is a big enough word. As Jason explained, before it was just service provider management, basically, of remote devices. The big use case was we need to get firmware to devices, right? So it was born out of necessity. But what we've done is we've completely opened it up. So I think the other key word that Jason uses is applications, right? So that from my vantage point, now I'm opening in devices up to applications, which TR69 was never engineered to do. So that, and by doing that as well, they're always on communication. TR69, as maybe the audience knows, it had a more rigorous way to attach and to communicate, where this is more of an always on, always accessible environment. So if I want to go into my home and turn my lights on and off, I can do it. I can use USP.
Yeah, one of the reasons that USP is important as an evolution of TR69 is that for its utility and ability to utilize multiple controllers. In the business of managing devices, the information that are produced from interface with them, it opens up an unlimited amount of very user-specific, user case-specific applications. And in providing network operators the ability to solve problems and operators to provide services based on a technology that will extend a protocol into the capability to deliver services, it is very practical. And because it is going to be a standard, it is something that everybody can utilize to develop unique platforms, but also for operators to develop very specific applications. So it's a very important evolution.
Jason?
For me, it was time. You know, we started several years ago. We sort of sat back and said, well, you know, there are things that TR69 can't do, or we're not well suited for, and people were trying to do them anyway. So we said it's time to kind of pull the hood open and look at the engine and see what it is that we can do. And when we did that, we set some very specific goals. And those goals were that it would be able to be installed on more kinds of devices, things with fewer resources, that it would be backwards compatible with the device to data model, so that all of that work that's already been done, because that's really part of the power of TR69, is that all of the work that's been done with the data modeling is really a standardized way to talk to all of these things and to map the home network in the way that it needs to be described. And we've done all that work in Wi-Fi, with all sorts of interfaces, IPv6, IPv4, setting up firewalls, all that stuff had already been modeled and deployed out there. And we wanted to make it easy for people who are going to make that transition to just, you know, do it without having to change everything on the back end. So for us, it was time. And once we set those goals, we had a very clear picture of where we're going to go with it. So it was a very natural evolution.
Yeah. So actually, like TR69 was born like 15 years back, right? So and then there was really some needs for that, and then it was really addressing those needs. And then over time, actually, it evolves, it improves. So there are lots of other things added, like device to model, you know, addressing different use cases and so on. But like all the software, actually, there was also kind of an evolution needed here, because also TR69 has some shortcomings also, like it, you know, like especially like being very heavy on communication, not always on, like connection request problems, especially like deploying TR69, especially on the LAN areas and so on. There are already some issues, actually, you know, being such a chatty protocol, very being heavy and so on. And then people were also, I believe, like looking for some other alternatives and so on. So I believe USP targets all these issues and then address those issues. And another thing also is that, like for the TR69, I believe TR69 was never built for IoT in mind. You know, like and with the newer like IoT trend now, especially with the smart home and so on. So there was really a need for the protocol to evolve and then really address those needs as well. And I believe USP does this correctly now.
Great, thanks, guys. Mike, I'm going to start with you for this next question. And it is, what are some of the pain points for service providers that USP helps solve?
No, it's USP addresses a lot of the problems that are important for operators to overcome on an operational point of view.
Yeah.
So for instance, the collection of mass telemetry and the analysis of data that's coming in from the network, which has expanded within the home to be quite complex, provides them the ability to troubleshoot a lot of things that they didn't have visibility and very good control of in the past. The other thing that it does is it allows them to make customer care applications very specific for different groups within an organization that might have responsibilities for different things going on inside the home network. So that's one of the critical factors. The other thing is that it provides a very wide range of ability for innovation. And so the problems that it solves also leads to a lot of new tech based on this standard that can be used for practical purposes and self-care apps that can be offered to customers of an operator. And as you pointed out, it offers a lot of opportunities to create consumer devices and enterprise devices that become Internet of Things hubs. And so it solves a lot of problems, and it also offers a lot of opportunities.
Jason?
Yeah, no, I would say that the app-enabled stuff is probably the biggest pain point in a way that they don't necessarily know. when it comes to say Wi-Fi management, there are many people trying to solve that problem right now, right? Yeah. And so as a result, you're getting everybody having sort of their secret sauce on how to do it, and that's fine. But when we're building the standardized solution for it, we said, okay, well, we're going to build the standard. There's going to be a way to do it, but we want to have a way that this entire infrastructure can start to work together. So the ability to install third-party apps and manage them, and have those things that are described in the data model get revealed by a USP agent, even though it's actually a third-party app that's kind of doing all that work, is probably one of the major things that USP can do that solves that immediate pain that service providers are having. Wi-Fi is the biggest one, but it's like Mike was saying, it's self-care apps, and all those sorts of things that they need to make sure that the end user experience is that they can offer a better end user experience as an upsell or as a differentiator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, in addition to Mike and Jason, actually, we do see that there is kind of a shift on the market, or especially on the service provider side, more on the smart home. And TR69, like I mentioned, has some shortcomings there to address those, and then that's why USP is becoming important, and then we believe that this will address those issues, especially with the smart home, and then with this connected home and other smart devices at home. So that's why it's so important for us.
Yeah, I can perfectly build on all three of what they just said. It's new revenue stream, right? Now I'm doing a better job of the maintenance and then what I'm responsible for today, but now I have a way to move forward with new revenue streams. I have a smart home. Now I can have smart home apps that I can offer the customer that they can manage their own smart home. So it's all of what they said, plus something brand new. And this is something that the operators, I think, webinars like this help them to understand, because I don't know if they see that right away. I mean, they're a lot of times focused on what does TR69 do for me? What are my current problems, right? But this isn't a problem. This is a solution to new things, a new avenue, new streams. Yeah. And that's what we want to open their eyes up to.
Yeah, and retail too. So you have all these devices that are coming in that
drop them in.
That you'll if they're implementing USP, they'll be able to drop into the service provider's network and everything be controlled in the same way, especially when providers are getting blamed for the problems.
Yeah, why not? Jump on in.
Nice. The next question I have is, Jason, I'm going to start with you this time. Why is your company interested in implementing USP? Why are you talking about that today?
Well, so we're in kind of a unique perspective, right? Because we're a test equipment company. Sure. But we've always tried to be on the forefront of innovation when it comes to these things. We really believe in helping standardization and building better networks, and we think that helps kind of build a better world. So for us, we got involved early on to make sure that we were building everything that was necessary to allow people to develop their solutions in real time and go through the entire test process and make sure that everything is hardened, so that it would be extremely likely that when they go and try to interact with the third party, they're going to be interoperable. From our perspective, it's because it's a cutting edge technology. We've had so much experience with TR69. CD router is basically the de facto standard test tool for it. And so for us, we wanted to get in early on and make sure that we were in a position to make sure that the protocol was successful.
Awesome. Yeah, for us, for Nokia, actually, Nokia is doing device management. So we do have software for the device management, and then we have more than maybe 15 years of experience here. This does not include TR69, but other protocols as well. Sure. Even mobile device management, IoT protocols, including TR69 and so on. So we have a very large customer base and so on. So we did in the past lots of innovations as well, also for the TR69. Very different use cases has been addressed in a very innovative way and so on. So and we believe that USP would be the next thing after TR69. And as being a leader in the device management area, actually, we wanted to continue this, and we already started implementing USP. So we have already the stack implemented. So and then we have already put them all in roadmap, so that it will be part of our device management portfolio.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say back on services and applications. Mostly, I mean, we're initial focus in the smart home, Wi-Fi management, stuff like that, to where you can bring applications to the end user, new revenue streams, and that. So that's our focus.
Yeah, good question, Timothy. So as far as Axeros is concerned, we've always been a technology-driven company. And our participation in the PlugFest, we've been to all three for USP and a sponsor of the Advance in Technology. We have representatives working at this PlugFest from North America, South America, our headquarters in Munich, and other locations in Europe. And so, you know, we like to say we're made in Germany, but we're made in Germany for a global application. And why we're interested in participating on our ongoing efforts with Broadband Forum is because the environment that's been created here for the development of the standard, finding practical use cases that address real world problems for operators, has been very productive. We've got manufacturers involved, we've got software technology companies like Axeros, we've got operators involved. So it's a standard that has been created for the real world, for real world problems, but it creates a very wide palette for very innovative solutions to be implemented. Yeah. So that's how we think this is a very good way to organize advancing technology that has a practical use in the real world. So we're very happy to be part of this.
Awesome. I have one more question for the team. Before I do that, people on the webinar, please go to the Q&A section if you have a question you want to ask. After this, we're going to open it up to the floor, and we'll start taking some of your questions. So please fill them out. We'll try to get to as many as we can. We got you all here this week because there's a PlugFest going on. Why don't you guys talk about why you're here, why PlugFest matters, and then what you're getting out of it.
Yeah. So actually, this is the third PlugFest actually. So we have been all this PlugFest actually, and so far actually it was quite beneficial for us. So like we were testing with the device vendor, with even the device managers. So we can able to test. We have like agent software, we have controller software, so we can test our implementation with each other. Like so far, like especially on the first two PlugFest, I believe we have also like you know, I'm also working on the standardization side, so we have found also some issues on the standardization where there were some gray areas or specs were maybe not very clear, or there were some issues or that people have different understanding and so on. I believe in the first two PlugFest, those issues were addressed already. That also helped driving the standardization. Plus, also for us, it was really beneficial that we have very clear understanding on the standards, and then we could have better our implementation. Also in this PlugFest, so we were even like identifying some issues with different people and then addressing those things. So it was quite beneficial actually. So both from implementation perspective, from standardization perspective.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was at much of the TR69 PlugFest, but there it was an ACS and a device, right? But if you notice here, most everybody's got an agent and a controller, right? So it's a different atmosphere now. Everybody's in the game on both sides. It's you're realizing that it's not just some, you know, monolith thing sitting up in the service provider that's running the whole operation. It's multiple endpoints, and you need to understand both endpoints to be able to, you know, get into this game, so to speak. So I think it's a new dynamic, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't have our benefit of knowing what's going on in the other room, there's desks full of folks working on computer testing code against their competitors in some places in the commercial marketplace. But this is a place where people are chasing good tech. Right, so as innovators, all of our companies want to create great tech. What's great about the PlugFest is the University of New Hampshire interoperability. And Broadband Forum create the environment for that to take place. And the reason that's important is because it lets everybody set aside the commercial concerns for a moment and create great technology. Yeah, that's what I think is very unique about the PlugFest. And I think it's the right way to go about it. So that's one reason we're involved.
Yeah, no, it's been very cool being involved this early. We started the PlugFests early, right? I think the first one we did was before the spec was even
the spec
released,
wasn't finished when we did that.
right? And we actually took a different approach to releasing the specification this time from the way that the broadband forum usually does stuff.
Yeah.
It's first of all, it's published online, which in web format, which is makes me happy. But we published it while it was still a draft, so people could already start to look at it. And so we were able to start doing the plug fests before, to work out the details of things that weren't clear, like Bahadur was saying. We got that out of the way pretty early on.
It's important.
And, right. and even now there's things that we don't necessarily have to change in the spec, but it's like, oh, well, this sort of thing needs some clarification. And that's extraordinarily helpful to making sure that things succeed. And what's awesome about it is it kind of puts it in contrast and cooperation with open source projects, right? Yeah. So you have a standard that everybody's building stuff to, but they're all looking at it separately, and that in a weird way that actually gives people more eyeballs on it, such that we find those gray areas, right? So it's been really great. And I was thinking about the timeline. So I was involved with starting the original TR69 plug fests, and back then, we found a lot of issues early on, and I'm starting to see the USP timeline sort of follow that same pattern. Because the TR69 plug fest didn't start until they were already, the spec was already 2 years old, 2.5 years old.
For a while,
So it's cool to see that process sort of happening in real time.
Yeah. All right, awesome. So we do definitely have some questions queued up. So I'm going to start with, this is a good one that I really like. When do you think we'll see this hitting the ground and being adopted in the real world? Anybody want to take that?
I'll take a crack. One of the things that's, so we've talked in terms of evolution of TR69. Great technology is invisible, right? And one of the things that is going to be important with it gaining widespread acceptance of TR369 or USP is that its introduction into the marketplace is gradual. So I don't see a seismic shift occurring. Technology, because it's invisible and because we're providing a bridge from one to another, and they're not uncomplementary, I think we'll start to see it in the marketplace very quickly. New technology that disrupts is good in some cases. Ours is really going to be non-disruptive introduction of an expanded capability. And that's why I think it might not look like a volcanic explosion.
It's not all going to happen at once.
But neither will there be fallout. There'll be the addition of a lot of services and other benefits that we'll see gradually.
Right, and in a way we purposefully designed it to be that way. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Good question.
Anyone else want to?
Anyone else want to take a shot at that one?
The only thing I would say is that the thing that has been sobering for me in terms of participation during the broadband forum meetings is that we are seeing different kinds of people being interested in USP that we never would have considered for anything else, right? So we're getting a lot of application vendors that are coming in. Either they're secure, they've developed security applications or mass telemetry, Wi-Fi management companies, and the fact that they're interested shows that this has a much wider audience. So you're going to see sort of multiple phases. You're going to see, depending on the use case, you're going to see providers who want to migrate because it enables more things. You're going to see people who are using it to build their solutions that will end up integrating into the ecosystem. And so I think you're going to see it from like multiple angles.
Wait, and it's tiered services, right? It's like all of a sudden, I have a BHR or a router at home that does A, B, and C, but if I want to get to the service X and Y, I'm probably going to have to upgrade that to a better router, and that is probably going to talk USP.
Right.
So the older equipment, the older systems, they still exist, but as you start evolving more to services and offering more, that's where you'll start seeing the shift.
Right. And it's like we were talking about last night. Once you do that, once you have a USB platform on something, then you kind of have future-proofed yourself in a lot of ways, right? Because you're going to be able to do a lot of more things later on. Right.
Yeah, we do see actually like the service providers are also very much interested actually. Whenever we talk with the service provider, they are quite a bit of interested. So we are also expecting this to be very soon actually. Yeah. That's why like in our platforms, we already started implementing this. and then we'll support this.
So service providers are already seeing use cases.
Yeah, there are seeing use cases. They are seeing the benefits actually, and so they want to see that actually in action. So that's why we already started also implementing stuff.
Makes sense. The next question is, if we've already implemented TR69 on our CPE already, how and is it necessary to transit to USP smoothly?
I mean, just what I was just saying, right?
Yeah.
So if I have a router that has limited functionality and all I'm ever going to do is manage it via TR69 to do what limited things I need to do, I probably don't need to change. But if I have a router that has maybe a Z-Wave controller on there, maybe has more memory, more functionality capabilities, I'm probably going to want to switch over to USP because I'm going to want to take advantage of that. I may want to put some applications around that so the end user can use and drive revenue. So I think that really it gets driven from what do you want to do with it.
And I'd just like to say, because I think that's a good question, you've done nothing wrong. You've done the right thing. TR69 is a good standard.
Yeah.
And
We're not replacing it.
Yeah, and we don't see this as a zero-sum game. So USP's introduction in the marketplace doesn't obsolete TR69. It does some other things, and it does some other things in a different way. The agent itself, replacing the TR69 stack, allows for the use of multiple controllers, and it allows for lots of different applications, literal applications utilizing the controller that is working with the agent. So you've done a very important thing in starting the process of managing that device. USP is an option that you can add to that device for additional features, but we don't see this as a zero-sum game.
Yeah, and I want to hit home the important point that we specifically designed it to use the same data model, so that the majority of the integration work that you need to do when deploying even TR69 is having the hooks go into into the device itself, so that the data model actually controls the things that the device implements. And if you've already done that work, you don't have to replicate that work with USP.
And that's a very good point. It's very complementary, in fact.
Right. And, another question we had was, do we expect agents to have both? Do we expect both?
It's all based on deployment. I know of some providers that are going to try and transition that way, right?
But the good point there is that that's possible.
Yeah, I think that's the.
Yeah, probably. I mean, for this may exist actually for some period of time.
Sure, there's going to be a transition period.
Yeah, and then there's a kind of a transition period. And then.
Yes.
Good questions.
Yeah, you guys are doing really good with the questions. Please keep them coming. Would gateways with a USP agent provided through 181 or another data model the API methods to build a map radio resource controller, or is it left to the map controller mesh API?
Okay, so that's a data model question.
Yep.
The first thing I'll say is that one of the things that we did in USP versus TR69 is make sure that we made the message structure be as simple as possible, so that all of the innovation can happen in the data model. And what that allows us to do, so when in TR69 you have RPCs, you have remote procedure calls. Those are defined in the protocol. In USP, all of the command-like things are defined in the data model through and notifications too, right? And eventing.
Right.
So that allows us to forever always have innovation be done in the data model.
Yeah.
Now, what we have been working on in the Wi-Fi management space is incorporating and working very closely with how Wi-Fi data elements work, right? Is incorporating that into another section of the data model that will be released probably Q2, Q3. It'll be in device 2.13, and that has an entire data model for multi-access point Wi-Fi with steering and everything.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with the ability for agents to be controllers and multiple applications deriving therefrom, including Wi-Fi optimization, it does become a very powerful option.
Oh yeah, right. So because of the multiple controllers, you can have a third party that you have made an agreement with be the one who is doing the Wi-Fi management, right? Or even have a third party software that under the hood is doing their own special stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Services.
Yeah, so I think this next question kind of follows on that line. Does USP have partitions so multiple service providers can share the same local network and manage devices using their own ACS privately?
Okay, well, it's multiple controllers, right? So, and I think not to diminish what an ACS is or does, but with USP being, I could have 10 different servers from the same service provider that talks different, maybe one server's a Wi-Fi server, maybe another server's just a download server, right? So it kind of changes the way you look at everything, right? So sure, you could have service provider A, B, and C all connecting into that gateway. And the thing we haven't talked about is access controls.
Permission, yeah.
Yeah, so when you open it up, before it was just an ACS, so that's the box that controls everything you do. But now, if I have multiple controllers, I may not want the service provider to turn my lights on and off, right? So we made USPs such that when you come in, you have a certain set of access to the data model. You may only be able to look at certain things, you may be able to actuate certain things, and you could easily divvy up whatever that service provider is interested in on that particular agent to say, yep, you can do anything you want here, but if this other controller comes in, he doesn't have access to it. So.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest difference between TR69 and USP, right? So like in the TR69, remember there was only one server or one kind of a controller, ACS server, but in USP there can be any number of controllers working with the same device. Like in it, there could be very different use cases. Like Tim was also saying, for example, you can have your controller running on your smartphone. And then you can and USB allows you directly access from your smartphone directly to your device at home without going through the cloud and then coming back. Yep. Like if you had used TR69, you had to go somehow to cloud service provider and then come all the way back. So here, like if your smartphone, the controller runs on your smartphone, actually, you can directly talk with your devices. With your given permission, whatever you can do, like turn on off lights or whatever other things you want to do, you can do it directly, actually. Right. Or another case is that like with the different controllers is that service provider can still manage the devices, but I don't know, for analytic purposes, for example, there can be another kind of a controller which collects data from the devices from different channels and so on. So this is possible, actually, and probably we will see really like more and more controllers for one device. Actually.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds like okay. This is a good question. It's multiple questions inside of one, but I think this is one we should cover. The question was, where can we go to find out? So places that we can point people who are on this webinar who need to find information. The first one is how to build, basically how to create a USP TR69. Where should someone trying to build one? Where should they start?
We should definitely go to the spec. I mean, it's at usp.technology. It's very easy to find. In addition to that, there's a number of resources. The QA Cafe, we have some training resources available. I would bring up the fact, so there was recently a press release from the Broadband Forum that an open source stack is going to be released. That's a very, very narrow scoped open source project, right? It's the protocol stack itself. You're going to still have to do a lot of the work, but that's going to be released pretty soon, probably in the next few weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Awesome. So all those resources will exist, and that's we have it internally at the Broadband Forum right now, and it's pretty well documented. So that's a good place to start too. Awesome. But I would definitely just go to usp.technology. The specification is there, and the data models are there, and that's most of what you need in order to do it.
I think that answers almost all of the other questions.
It's a very good resource too for members, and if you're not a member, you can become a member of the Broadband Forum. And Xeros will be licensing agents and controllers as well.
This is an interesting one. Could it be an idea to build a future Bloodfest around use cases and features, not only looking at specific interop aspects or Shana's workout?
I would say yes. One of the things that I think we're going to have to do going forward is really expand the Plugfest test plan and build it into exactly what they're saying. Right. So that and it will also invite different kinds of participants too.
We already did it already with the lights already, right?
Yeah.
So we already have some
everybody turns
some use cases.
I did see some use cases this week. I absolutely did.
This is what happens when you get all these companies together.
Yeah, and then there was another use case actually where we can turn on off this switches and so on.
Right.
Awesome. Here's a good one. How do you see the coexistence or concurrence of multiple standards in the domain of the USP space, and how USP could fit in the big picture end-to-end services, resource and device management, BSS, OSS stuff, type stuff.
Well, the existence of multiple standards is not a problem. The important thing, I think, is that there are standards. That is the critical factor that allows a lot of innovation without a great deal of technology risk on the part of the manufacturers and the service providers. And on the solution side, the software providers. So the standard is in itself the most important thing. That there are multiple ones just provides more colors to the palette. So I think if I understood the question, those are not incompatible. The standards, the existence of a standard that's well supported by broadband forum, comprised of operators and manufacturers, is a positive thing.
Well, and standard's a big word, right? I mean, USP by design gives you access to standards like Zigbee, Z-Wave, Wi-Fi, all of that, right? It's now you're taking these technologies and you're bringing access to applications, to service providers, to everything like that. So very complementary in that sense.
Right. Also, yeah, another thing with the USB is that, like, maybe another differentiator for the TR69 is that, like, also in USB there are also some northbound APIs also defined, where the OSS BSS can able to talk with the controller. So there will be kind of a standardized APIs now over REST actually, where the OSS BSS can also integrate with the controller,
which was not there for TR69,
right? Which was
And Timothy, Jason brought up a very good point. You know, the data model in the USP standard is very important. It's a lot more sticky and utilitarian in that we can actually take other protocols and manage them very effectively using a USP ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so by combining the capabilities of a lot of specific standards that already have that are used in a wide population of devices already out in the world, USP could be seen in some respects as a unifying technology.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about IoT, which is very important because it means a lot of things, but there are specific applications out there that use Zigbee or Z-Wave or other protocols. The data model is very flexible in USP, so it wouldn't be out of bounds to think that you could have a gateway that's provisioned with TR69 with an agent like USP that also manages devices with IoT protocols.
Right, which is what we're working on right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we're adapting to the world around us. The world around us has a lot of protocols and a lot of standards. We see this as an opportunity to kind of unify them. So if you're creating solutions for verticals, whether it's operational in nature or commercial in nature, this is very effective. It's utilitarian.
Right. Yeah, and we also built a better proxying mechanism in USP. In the data model, you actually have a proxy device object, and that can represent devices that don't talk USP.
Sure.
But the data model can still represent the things
behind it.
And so you'll see it makes it a very easy onboarding process for non-USB devices.
It's like a Star Trek universal translator.
Actually, like
There you go.
which always translates to English.
A follow-up question I thought that was good on top of this, because you guys talked a lot about the standard, is what is the advantage of an open standard like this over proprietary solutions? Talk about how something like USB, how that works.
I have the evangelist answer.
Sure.
Does anyone want to give the more practical?
He said the word retail.
Well, I'll give a practical one. As a service provider, it allows for a lot of flexibility in hardware procurement. It also allows for consistent product, really. So if it's hardware or software, it provides a certain amount of protection against making a bad investment. I think that's the most practical result of having a standard, other than allowing all the innovation we were talking about.
Right. I like to think of it as future proofing too. So even because there are so many, especially for these specific pain points around Wi-Fi management and smart home branding, right? So the provider is able to offer a service that it looks like it's theirs, right? There's a lot of solutions for that right now, and everybody has their own thing that they're doing, but that's not necessarily sustainable in the long run.
Right.
So if you're going to be implementing a standard solution, then when it comes time that you want to either have more competition or more options, then that's where you get there.
Well, and if you don't mind, one more follow-up to that. What it also does is it sometimes these standards, the ones that are used in enterprises, like TR69, USP can be very useful among the consumer manufacturing market and the enterprise market space. And so if it's used in both, not only does it provide more opportunity for in-home services and the ability to communicate with and control those devices, but also for the operator to have the potential of third-party manufacturers introducing devices into their customer premise that they could manage should they choose to do so. So it's one of those technologies that preserves investment for the people who are making capital investment in enterprise networks, but it also allows for manufacturers to become part of those ecosystems and everybody to be able to solve problems together. So it's powerful.
Awesome. Definitely keep those questions coming. We have a little bit more time to take a couple more questions. This one is, I think, a nice one. Where do you see the most critical aspect into the journey to USP for operators?
Transition's always tough. Institutions are driven by factors of safety and good practice and results. Everything that's good in the world is usually results based, right? So the tide waters are going to come together where we have the transition from one technology to another. USP does it in a non-disruptive way. So I don't think, like we talked about, there won't be an event that'll have shockwaves.
Right.
But the biggest thing will be to have them convinced that the risk factor is tolerable. And I'd suggest that because it's a standard supported by the industry, there's little risk. And the second is to understand, does it mean that I've made a bad decision in the past with investments I've made? And I think that answer is no.
Yeah, it's opening new doors is what you're doing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Good questions.
Oh, these questions have been really good. This is an interesting one. How do you see USP integration with different abstraction layers? Like, for example, the OpenSync platform or RDK platform?
Well, those are two different things. I'd say. I would definitely think that it's very near on the horizon that somebody would try to incorporate a USB agent into RDKB at least. Not that I know that someone's definitely going to do it, but I know that the code exists out there to already do it.
Right.
If somebody's going to submit that. The second question, as far as OpenSync goes, is it's really, like we've been saying, USP is sort of a unifying factor. So if somebody is looking to invest in something like OpenSync, it's something that you can still manage with USP as a third-party application pretty easily.
One other OpenSync question that I guess we'll deal with right now since they're asking it, and this is about the tech bits of how does USP compare to OpenSync, which promotes MQTT instead of other messaging protocols?
The one thing that I keep bringing up when it comes to that is based on provider feedback. When designing USP, we separated the layers very clearly.
Yeah.
So being able to add another message transport is easy. And so we're doing that right now. So in version 1.1 of USP, we're going to be adding MQTT as a transport for all those people. The feedback that we got was that a lot of people had already invested in MQTT
expertise, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that people know the servers, they've already done all this.
Sure. Those are deployed out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So it honestly, what is maybe a couple months of us talking about it before it's.
And we drove down a lot too. So
Yeah.
And also, like that for the protocols, there are two aspects of the protocol. Right? One is the communication part,
Right.
where you exchange messages. So this is indeed in the USB clearly separated actually, where we can use different communication mechanisms. So that's one part. And the second part is that the data model actually. So I mean, comparing MQTT with USB probably is not a right approach here, because their USB contains also the data model, where in MQTT you can exchange any data and so on. So it's just kind of exchanging messages and so on. Also in TR6, so in USB we do use we will support the MQTT in version 1.1. But again, data model is not there at all in MQTT. So that's
Right.
one of the biggest, strongest area actually on USB as well.
Right. USB puts the intelligence on MQTT.
Right.
Exactly.
And even on OpenSync too. I mean, I know that they've sort of specified a lot of data model like things.
Yep. I'm not as familiar with that.
Through, I think they're just doing it straight up in Google Protobufs.
Oh.
But it's, you know, they're basically their definitions that they've had before they open sourced it, versus, you know, the USB data model has been constantly revised every 6 to 9 months over the last 10 years, and it's been deployed for a pretty long time. So.
This is a classic one that I think, you know, I knew this was coming. Can you talk about the security features of USB a bit? It's an important issue, which obviously, if you're talking about anything today, you're going to talk about the security of it.
What was it that when Barbara first started, we were like, we are not finishing this until it is completely locked down.
yeah. So why don't you guys talk about what things we have?
TLS is probably easiest to read, right? I mean, we pretty much just followed that. As far as certificate-based encryption and authentication, it's rooted in it. I mean, that's right in the middle. You can have, we have 2 levels of security. So you can have one level of security, which is the transport. So if most of your controllers are just going to be locked down in a certain transport, you can just use the transport security, you know, like a WebSocket connection, you know, that, or a CoAP connection, you can do that. And then on top of that, if you have a more distributed system, we did put in an end-to-end security architecture. So you're effectively running an application layer TLS from one end to another, and that could go through proxies, that could go through like an MQTT broker, where, you know, you have 2 different legs before it's getting to the endpoint. So
so if that central thing is compromised, you still won't be able to.
You will not be able to, right?
And then the other aspect of security is the access control stuff.
Yeah, and the access control, right?
So
so you use the authentication from, you know, when I talk to you, you give me your certificate. Oh, you're, you know, user X. This is what you have access to. So it's all integrated in that.
Awesome. And to a degree, I'll just add that because a controller can be very specific in its target application, and multiple controllers interact with an agent on a device, and the way that messages are negotiated, communication is negotiated, it actually provides an additional layer of security just in the way that you can apply communications and control to an embedded agent. So not only on the physical layer and the messaging, but it provides a way to create very specific access for very specific purposes, almost creating more of a hardened approach to security for specific uses of the agent by the controllers.
Yeah, I think the second part where Tim mentioned, like the end-to-end security, where we can do the security on the message level. I think it's very important because you know, like, it really provides end-to-end security where the intermediate nodes cannot even see the messages. So I think that's one of the strongest part here as well, actually. Besides the TLS level on the communication level, which you may not even need that if you use probably the other level security, like message level security. I think that's one of the very strongest.
And it gives operators the flexibility to deploy whatever model that suits them.
Whatever. Exactly.
All right, I think we have time for 2 more questions. The first one is, I see a OB USP agent has recently been released. How will this simulate innovation and introduction of new features?
So that was what I was talking about.
Yeah, I wanted to give you a chance to talk more about that.
That's the project's been started. We have sort of the initial code drops that are in Broadband Forum's code base. But that will be released on GitHub probably in the next few weeks.
Awesome.
The advantage, I really think, and it's something that keeps coming up at Broadband Forum specifically, because we you have this whole wave of people who are like open source. Open source. You can't do open source without standardization. really, right? It's like if you do an open, or I should say, an open source solution is not a standard.
No, it's not.
Right. And so I think the advantage of having an open source version of something, well, we probably should have done it for Tier 69 ages ago.
Yeah, it's one of those
rather
things
than having
when I'm teaching
third parties
students,
do
one
it.
of their first questions when we get to Tier 69 is like, where's the open source implementation? So I think this will really help.
They will just sprout out of the ground.
Yeah.
But so the advantage is that, Broadband Forum is taking control of that, making sure that there's an open source platform. But that platform has been developed in accordance with the standard. We tested against the standard, when it comes to certification down the road and that sort of thing. So I think that that's kind of the best of both worlds.
Awesome. Speaking of the Broadband Forum, do you think someone asked would the USP be demonstrated at the BBF Q2 meeting? This is a direct question.
I mean, we could.
We could bring the thing we did at the Broadband World Forum.
Yeah. We had a demo at Broadband World Forum.
Okay.
Back in October. That showed a couple of features of it. But if anybody wants to ask us about it, we can.
Yeah.
It'll be in Korea, so I don't know how many people want to bring stuff with them on those long flights.
Yeah, it's a long
We'll
flight.
make it. Yeah, my light bulb make it, right?
Okay, so thanks everyone for the questions. I know we didn't get to all of them. We have a couple still left over. We've run out of time. We have a couple things we want to wrap up here. So, cover this last slide. So moving forward, there's been 3 Plug Fest up till now. Jason, do you want to talk a little bit about?
So we've had 3 Plug Fests. We're doing the 3rd right now, and we're going to keep planning more of them. I expect that the next one will be in Q3. We might try to ramp it up a little bit faster this time. We were doing kind of every 6 months, but I think we're going to try to do something a little bit faster this time. So we welcome everybody's participation in that. It's an extremely valuable experience if you've never done one before, to work live with other engineers from other companies. And then what we have going forward for testing is that we do intend on releasing the certification program through the Broadband Forum. That's probably going to focus on self-testing with certified results to make it really easy, so you don't have to go through kind of this huge painful process in order to get your platform certified.
That's a change from what happened in the past.
Yes. Yeah. And so that will also be probably about Q3 this year. The test plan's already done. We just have to start putting the nuts and bolts together.
Awesome. It's always good to hear. It's always good to hear when the testing's going on with the standards. Sometimes if the 2 lag too much, it ends poorly for everyone. So it's good to hear you guys going on. There's a couple of, the slide up now talks about some of the resources. I know we had that question. There's the links right there up on the webinar that you can click on. We'll give you access to a lot of the information these guys. I want to thank all you guys. I learned a lot today. I'm hoping everybody on the webinar learned something today. Do you guys have any last things you guys want to talk about?
No, thanks for having us, and thanks to the university and to the Broadband Forum for putting all this together.
Yep. Thank you.
And I would say get involved.
Yeah.
If you're interested in this, jump in.
Yeah,
We're nice people. I would say it's the most fun you'll ever have in standards, which is not saying much.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks.